this looks good.
Oh my God, this is delicious.
I definitely want to taste that.
All right, so envisioning a world where sex isn't taboo. So I have a little bit of a theory. I think that part of the reason why there is so much misery and why certain systems of power have come into place is because there is a deep disconnect for certain people, whether it's a cultural disconnect that came about or because they're experiencing particular traumas or just society as a whole teaching us that blocks our tapping into our sexual energy, right? And the power that comes from feeding our sexual energy, but also exploring what our sexual energy looks like beyond what we've seen on TV or have watched in pornography or whatever art, is explicit, right? And even the fact that these things are categorically explicit or rated R and have like all these like red flags around them, I think that that of disconnect has not allowed for people to reframe sex for themselves. And I even mean down to the point where people are like, yeah, I can have an orgasm just by mentally connecting with somebody and genuinely have an orgasm without touching myself. Like people, there's so many different and all like so it's like these things are real, and there are a lot of people who I've seen, or at least on my timeline, have emerged who are either sex therapists or just healers who will talk about the healing energy of sexual power and why it's important to be mindful of who you're exchanging sexual energy with. And it's not about being a hoe or anything. It has nothing to do with that, but it is just the genuine power that sex as an act holds that is belittled and we're disconnected from. And so we're having toxic sex. And so we're in a position where we don't even let people express themselves sexually, which in itself is toxic. So I wanted to unpack this because, as I said earlier, Rose, I feel you're someone who shows up in a way where you're not afraid of what any of those things mean to you personally. You're not afraid to joke about them or talk about them in a serious way or call out people who are, sort of like fucking with like what sex can really be and letting them know like that's whack shit. And, over here, this is what we do. Right. So I would love to hear, what is your perception and just your general relationship with sexual expression across different areas of your life, whether it's social media, at work, with personal relationships in your life?
Well, I'm someone that I feel like I don't want to act like I had only 3 partners in my life, but in a spectrum from what we know that is out there for both men and women, because it's not just men that have a lot of sexual partners. I'm still pretty low on my numbers. I can still count with these 2 hands. However, the type of sex that I enjoy, I think I'm a very sexual being. I'm very expressive when I'm with someone. I like relationships because I like that building up of sex. Like the first day, that thing might be a little but like there's something so special to me, like when you water and grow a healthy sexual relationship. Have I had toxic ones as well? Yeah, because you go through shit as you grow up. But now I feel like I've gotten to this level where I'm very sexually secure with myself. I'm very comfortable expressing it. And I think it is a form of healing. Like things used to be so much taboo back in the days for women. We couldn't talk about being aroused or what aroused. You couldn't even tell a man how to fuck you back in the days. Like you kind of have to just lay there and just take it and pop them babies out. But as women grew confidence in themselves, I think it's been a good ride, and I think that's the way to improve women, to talk about it.
Yes.
And not judge, because people, some people might be more prude than others, or they have their judgments. I'm like, oh my God, I would never. You know how much I've seen? Oh, I would never post like that for yoga poses. Like, I would never joke like that. I'm like, niggas is laughing. Shut up. This is how we really think. Why do not people admit that this is how they really think? Come on. The majority of us do. You just don't want to say it because it used to be frowned upon. to be that expressive.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really do think like it's so important. To me, it is so important that even in the moments where I'm kind of like, ooh, am I taking it too far with this cleavage? Or ooh, am I taking it too like I have to recognize that it's okay for me to acknowledge what is making me feel shy about that and then decide like, okay, I'm not gonna post the thing, but know why you're really doing that and really ask yourself, is that something I want to keep appeasing or upholding for myself? Like, is it really true that I think that, as an artist, I have my life, but because my life as an artist is pretty public, that I can't be sexual because I'm afraid that the people who I fuck with in the tech world, right, building fucking companies, entrepreneurship, which is completely different than being an artist and a creative and owning your personality, right? And
Yes.
that's the thing that you're selling. But in those other rooms, that's not what they're tapping on my shoulder for. And so arguably it's like, oh, traditional, right? But is that true? Or do I want them to know that the same person who can give them consulting about what they need for their company is also the same person who's going to talk about sucking dick because she does? And whether she's
woman,
room or not, right? Like, does that mean I'm saying, please let me talk about my dick sucking experiences during the middle of the fucking Zoom? No. Why? Because it's not relevant in that space. But if
people don't know how to separate things.
Yes.
I mean, but like,
they're fucking fake as fuck, all right? Because behind fucking closed doors, you're saying shit that's worse than what the fuck I'm saying, sweetie. Or you're like actually doing shit that's worse.
Right.
But you're mad.
History. What kind of videos do you be watching? Like,
I've been watching all types of porn.
Exactly, right? Like,
it becomes like oh wow, so okay. I learn from everybody.
And I think it's something that is worth exploring, basically, is what I'm saying. I think it's worth understanding why you have the sexual opinions you have. And it doesn't mean that the best sexual person is the loudest and the proudest and the one who's talking about all their business. It's actually just the person who's grounded and knows what works for them and what doesn't. And that is always going to look different from person to person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't fuck every nigga the same.
Right.
You don't. There's different levels of love, and you don't even know how good you probably could fuck. What if you haven't even met that one that you're like, whoa, if I thought that I saw Nirvana with the last one, this nigga took me to fucking light years ahead right now, like.
I feel like, just to add my 2 cents in, I think that in a world where sex isn't taboo, my sex life would be so much more better. Like, I feel like, because I always talk about this, how like I attract closeted men often. I like attract, the men that like are afraid to want to actually sexually explore in the way freely, in the way that they do. And I just think that like I would maybe be able to have different experiences. And maybe this is me also like just needing to put myself in the position to have different experiences. But like, I feel like I would have different experiences, or maybe more frequent and less secretive experiences in a world where sex isn't taboo, or even just like the experience as an LGBT person coming out and like being able to freely explore that without having to deal with the fear of the judgment that's going to come with, wanting to explore that and wanting to express that. These kids, though, are getting a brand new way of exploration and all that stuff in the way, it's represented in school now. But even still, like, And
what do you mean by that? Like how it's represented in school?
I just think that like their language is different, and then now schools have these things that are called like advisories and stuff, where it's just focused on the social part of school. So like they have that like, what's said here stays here type of mentality.
Like a support system, like in a way.
It's supposed to be that way. Is every classroom that way in those periods?
No,
it depends on the teacher. It depends on how the teacher connects with the students. But that is an effort that's being put into education these days.
I think the more we talk about it openly, the more we do have these discussions, the better it is. All in its age, all in its time. But then what is the age and time? Because the internet is here and it's been here for a little bit, and these kids is smart, you know?
Yeah, they're smart. And the thing about it is, like,
don't know how to work laptops type of
we're kind of like in the in between, right? Like we're kind of like the old people like are too like didn't talk about it at all.
Yeah.
And then like these new kids have it all up in their face, you know, on the internet.
Everything.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that it's interesting, sort of speaking to bringing up young kids in this conversation. I think that there is an opportunity to evolve significantly in how we have sex present in the vernacular of everyday life. I think, right, where like, you know, especially. I find it interesting when people associate kids who are coming out at a younger age to them being exposed to sex, when in reality that's not those two experiences are different experiences. In fact, a lot of times the reason people don't get to realize or recognize that perhaps whatever their assigned sex and whatever cis norm comes with that isn't actually what they're connected to is because of the shelteredness of everything. It's almost like just because we're afraid of talking about private parts touching, regardless of what the private parts are, we're also then stripping people the conversation of you know, emotional intimacy, right? And like the fact that sometimes sexual feelings that come up are coming from an emotional place and what that means, right? And having safe sex conversations is more than talking about condoms and like,
oh my God, when I feel like I had my first safe sex conversation was like in high school. I started in public school, then junior high went to Catholic co-ed school because it was boys and girls, but it was the Catholic school, and then back to high school to, you know, public school. And I feel like it wasn't until high school that I felt like I had like a sex ed class that made a little bit more sense. You know, they were talking about condoms and STDs and going deeper compared to maybe thinking in elementary when the class is just sex ed only had to do with body parts, you know?
Yeah.
Like the level. But now going back to the kids now, and I'm saying kids because I'm a proud 40-year-old. So, you know, even like the 18-year-olds, those are still kids to me, you know? That younger generation is different. It's just everything is so raw with them. And they ingest information differently. So yes, how can they're still gonna see the information out there. How can we educate them in a way that they'll understand and still want to take care of their bodies? I don't know.
Yes.
An interesting thought to bring up in this conversation is, you know, the new Sex in the City came out, right? It's called.
I was supposed to audition for it. They didn't hit me back. They hit me up, but they didn't to play like a nanny. That would have been cool. But
wow,
it's all right. You won't catch the next one, the next season.
That's all right. Yeah.
I wasn't vaccinated then. But now I am.
Yeah.
So
well,
back on the
next time. No, but. So, and just like that just came out, right? And in like the second episode, we're seeing the new characters in their 50s now, right? And we all know that Miranda had a son. And so in this new series, Miranda has taken a very like open door policy, I guess you could say, to her son and his girlfriend having sex, even though he's only 17. And so like she lets the girlfriend stay over, they have sex, you know, and they're just like, you know, there's one scene where like they're at the Charlotte's daughter's concert and the son is like making out with the girlfriend and Miranda's like having an aneurysm because she's like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to be open, but like they're doing this in public. And it like it brought to question like, am I really trying to let my child's, is that like what happens in this new age of like,
is that
like where sex isn't taboo?
So what happened was that like instead of letting my son fuck in the streets, I let him fuck in the house. But it's not that like it started like that. It was like he had a girlfriend, which he is still with, his high school girlfriend. They're still together.
Yeah.
I raised a good boy.
Okay.
A good man.
Okay.
Her. Okay. And yeah, going on 18, late 17, going on 18. They've been fucking boyfriend and girlfriend for like 3 years already. Like in high school, they're like, she was a year ahead of him, so you know he likes to mature. And she didn't live around here after a while, so it became a long distance relationship. She was like far in Jersey for a bit, so then they would want, you know, like, can she come over and hang out? And I was like, yeah, you know, but then I started getting a little jealous. Not because like they're spending time, but because then he ended up being the one that's like fucking in the house, and I'm not, because I don't bring nobody to the house. And you know, my mom is an instigator. She kind of just cheered him on. So it was like a weird thing. It's
not
like,
when I cheer her grandson on.
Like come over, but then you know they start acting like they balls is big. He didn't want to like change the kitty litter no more. Like you know, I had to tell them. We had like a little fight and everything. It was so bad, not bad like crazy, but like it was not something that we expected. He felt like he was a man. Kind of pushed me and I fell. And I was like, you know, like it got to that level, and he moved out. But he's like a good boy. Like we went. It was a moment for us.
Yeah.
But it was like a year and a half of his girlfriend coming to stay over. This is what my stand-up is about.
Yeah.
How like my mom flirted her way through the nursing home, and she would, she had her little flings. My son had his girlfriend, and here I am single, paying the bills. It's just crazy.
Wow.
Me and the cat, me and Mirage, just going through heat. Month after new moon, full moon after like cycles and all.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important for people to, figure out what their flow and what their dynamic is with their kids, because like lead by example, right? Like I think it's so interesting to me that sometimes parents who are, but in the sheets they have a very clear or a very specific lifestyle are ridiculously overprotective and ridiculously trying to do the most to keep their kids away from the lifestyle that they're trying to secretly build. And it's kind of like, what does it look like to own your sexual expression in a way that isn't overbearing necessarily or inappropriate, but is honest to some degree? So I wonder what that looks like. And I love the show Big Mouth, because I think that most parents and the way they are with him, like I love that dynamic where they like talk about their sexual or like their experiences, which sometimes obviously is a TV show, so sometimes they stretch it, they drag it a little bit.
But we got it. Come on, we like when the period came or just masturbating.
Right, because then again, it's like, is that really stretching it? Like, is there a world where you could be that sexually open with your kids, and that helps them navigate it better? Because when they're going through shit, they don't feel awkward when you're like, what happened in school today? If they have to say something, they don't think, oh, it's inappropriate, I'm gonna get in trouble for talking about it. They think, oh, this is gonna feel awkward, but I know I'm not in
that time. I'm either gonna regret this or laugh about this one. Nap time, I remember being a certain age, nap time in school. Remember we had nap time? You know how to, like, you kind of rub yourself on like the mat a little bit? Like that felt good. Felt good. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why. Like I was just like, and then you go home and then you figure out that if you keep doing that, something happens, and like it does happen at a young age. Well, or all I could do is speak on my experience and see if others are brave enough to talk about it too. Yeah. So it goes back to like, like what could have happened differently? Like could have my mom have told me, like, talk to me more about my yoni. And how we got to take care of it, and like, and at what age does that happen? I don't want to stay stuck on that subject, but like just having the conversation. And even as women, there's some women that don't know how good it feels to touch themselves, don't know how to touch themselves, don't know what it is to please themselves and love themselves and let energy come through their bodies, and how that helps release fucking baggage off of it. Like that's not now we're talking tantric energy.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're open and you're free and you know, I've noticed comments, people are like, oh, you know, I don't know, like you have this confidence. We love seeing the confidence grow. It's shit that I felt like that I've always had, but I just never displayed it. Because I was so afraid of how it would look to people, you know? And once I let go of that fear and you kind of just not care what perception people have of you, and then you see the positive comments and you see those people that are fanning your flames, because that's also very important. When you see that you do have a support, not that, you know, you should go in life wanting people support. We all know that you should be whole before you like want anybody else to give to you. But at the end of the fucking day, one person praying is very different than like 60, 50 people praying for the same cause. And we could do that for each other by support. Absolutely. You know, like in words of encouragement, like, yo, you guys, like I said, you guys are fucking great. With like, I couldn't wait to get on your podcast. I've been waiting. I've been waiting for like 3 years. I was like, one day. Because you guys have good energy, and you know, working with people like Rachel and everybody else out there, like other empowering humans that like are okay with speaking like this, and you're like, yo, you feel like you're finding your tribe, like. We all got a little dirty mind. Doesn't mean that we bad people.
Okay,
and that's prosecute.
And it doesn't even like, and doesn't even have to be considered dirty mind.
Like,
right.
Because I feel like dirty gets it that like
a few times doesn't mean that I'm a bad person.
Exactly. You know, and I love that, and I think like. So to wrap, I wonder what is advice that we would give to people who are struggling with their sexual expression for one reason or another, and how they can step into their sexual power a bit.
Wow, I feel like we should have a whole seminar about that.
That can absolutely.
Yeah, honestly.
We should do that. Definitely future, but like a quick
piece of advice, I would honestly to just say fucking own it. Fucking own it. And maybe that's like a cliche piece of advice or whatever, but like I feel like at the end of the day, when people are concerned of like, oh, what is this people gonna think? But at the end of the day, as long as you like step into your sexual expression and own it and like are confident in this is what you want and this is how you like it and this is where you want it, how you want it, nobody can say anything to you because you're owning it and it's yours and that's it. And if they want to say something to you, it's probably because they don't own theirs. You know?
Listen.
But I gotta listen to my own advice.
Out of here, you know.
I'm gonna pour some honey in this dulce.
Okay.
As sweet as possible, right?
Yes.
I want this to be as sweet as possible. I'm just gonna.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You hear that?
Okay.
Other people's perception of you is none of your fucking business. All right. If they have not elevated to the level of your freeness and consciousness and love of yourself, that's okay. That's on them. Block out all the noise. But if you know that you've gotten to the level that you are in a healthy place sexually, spiritually as a person, you learn to respect yourself. You learn not to share your energy with too many people. And if you do, you know how to release yourself of any energy that you might attach yourself to, like, you know, catch yourself. But at the end of the day, sexual expression is very important. Go play with yourself every morning, every night. I don't care how often you do it. Listen, I was the 40-year-old toy virgin. Shout out to my friend Rochelle that just got me my toys last year, you know.
Listen, no shame because Julissa got me my first toy last year.
That was taboo for me. When she got me the toy, I was like, oh my God, I'm hide this from my mom. Like a fucking grown-ass woman saying that I had to hide a toy from my mom, a vibrator. Like, she got me the nice suction ones. It's pretty cool. It's kind of strong, so I don't use it often.
Girl, that's the one. That's the one.
To me, and it's like, express yourself, go dance, go in the mirror, get fucking naked, fucking men and women, everybody, fucking just like explore yourself, look at your fucking power, let the fucking lioness energy out, whatever it is, you know. and be free. As long as you're a pure person, you ain't hurting nobody, especially not yourself, then fuck everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ciao.
And I would say, like, my advice would be, like, there's levels to this shit, right? Like, enter at the levels that make sense for you. Don't try to discover you're a freak by doing something that you already know makes you completely uncomfortable and stiff, because you're not setting yourself up for success. I think really incrementally finding the things that work for you and leaning into them as you feel comfortable doing is going to get you better results than rushing yourself or forcing yourself to do something that you already know you're just not ready for yet. And it's okay to not be ready for something. And it's okay to never fuck with something, right? Like, I recognize that as somebody who talks about, oh yeah, sucking dick and whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of people out there who don't enjoy doing that, right? But that doesn't mean
that's fine. They just gotta don't hate what they don't understand.
Right. You know
that's
what
it says up there. There's one of the quotes is don't hate what you don't understand.
Right. And I love that, right? I love that quote. And I think that that's what it is right. Like, you don't have to like something, but you don't have to hate on something or judge or ridicule anyone for something that you simply don't understand. And so if you don't understand why somebody would or wouldn't want to give head or wouldn't want to do anal or wouldn't want to mix genders in terms of their sexual experiences, right? Like, and know that people can do that, and that doesn't mean that they identify as being one side, and that is just part of their sexual experience, right? And accepting that, and stop trying to label people and pin people down by what they
just got them fucking business.
Exactly. Like
¿Qué te importa a ti, coño? Haz tu paja, live your life however the fuck you want to live it. Why are you mad that somebody else happy with their sexual presence and energy and confidence? You want to be like how you want to be, so that's on you. I fucking big up people that listen. I respect the woman that likes to cover herself and finds power in that just as much as the woman that is naked, nude, and finds power in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like I find power in the guy who does like to get his booty hole licked, and then the one who doesn't. Like, I think regardless of which one you are, that doesn't make you less powerful.
They all like the same thing that women like. Some just won't fucking admit it.
Exactly. So, like, don't deprive yourself. It's basically my piece of advice. Don't deprive yourself, but also don't rush yourself. Just keep it real with yourself so that you'll actually enjoy it, because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be pleasure. So, yes. So thank you, Rose, so much for being on here with us today. Are there any shows that you want to give out to anyone, or anything you have coming up that you want us to know about?
Stay tuned for more sketches online. Follow me on Instagram. I am Black Rose NYC. My next show coming up is I'm doing a stand-up with the Latino Kings of Comedy. If you don't know who that is, we're going to hit the Broadway comedy show. It is T5K, Tommy, Ivan Manito, Chicho Comedy, Mr. Nueva York. Like, we're coming, and they asked me to do a set, so I'm ready. I'm so excited. The only thing representamos, just talk shit about, shit that happens in my life, silent sex, and, like a kid that's, having sex in the house.
Right. I love it. And Skittles, where can they find us?
You can find us at Ladies Who Bruncher on Instagram, Ladies Bruncher on Twitter, and Ladies Who Bruncher on YouTube. You can find Julissa at Julissa with an H, and you can find me at The Real Skittles with a Z.
Yes, thank you all so much for being here with us today. And until next time, Bronche.